Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday, or last day of January 2023. While you guys are coming in, let me put in my phone number here. Just say hi when you're coming in. I'm just typing my phone number in Instagram, and then I will continue talking when I finish because multitasking is hard for me to type and talk at the same time. Say hi, let me know where you're tuning in from, share this video. So if you have friends or family who want to tune in, they can tune in, share the love. To did I just post that? Sorry, I've got a typo in my stuff, but it won't let me. It won't let me. But anyway, that's my phone number. Ashani says you want me to join today. If you want to join, you can join. Send me requests, and you can tell them about working with us and how your experience has been. Okay, guys, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Aisha Chidolwe. I'm an immigration lawyer. I represent clients in all 50 states with their family immigration matter. We have an office in Atlanta and in Florida, but your location is not a problem. We take cases in all states because, immigration is a federal law. If you see me looking up and down, it's because I've got two screens, going up and down. Hi to those of you on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. So today I just want to get right into it. I want to talk about all things VAWA and basically what that means. I've been getting a lot of that recently. And before I get into it, my phone number is 407-995-6567. You can also send a WhatsApp if you want to schedule a consult to 404-333-8751. I pinned it on Instagram and on Facebook and YouTube. You can see scrolling through the ticker. If you're tuning into Instagram after this live, you can also see it in the on our profile page where our phone number is on there. Okay. So first of all, what is VAWA? VAWA basically, I don't even like saying what this full name of VAWA states because it confuses people. But real quick, basically, VAWA stands for Violence Against Women's Act. Although it is high time that they change the name because this is not just for women; it is for men, children, parents. Any one of those people who have been abused by the U.S. citizens. Relatives, which I'll get into, or legal permanent resident residency. So if you're filing VAWA based on being married to a U.S. citizen, whether that's a same-sex marriage or a heterosexual marriage, if your spouse is a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, and you meet the qualifications, you can apply. If you are a child who is under the age of 21 and you're being abused by your parent or step parent and they are US citizens or green card holders, you're also eligible to apply for VAWA. And if you're a parent over the age, and you have a child over the age of 21, who's a U.S. citizen. So you notice that in this category for children, in order for you to basically allege that your child is abusive, the child must be a U.S. citizen over the age of 21. It can't be a green card holder child. Okay. So that's the difference between all the different groups. But basically, you have to show abuse. And abuse, when they say abuse, they're talking about different things that would arise to the level of extreme cruelty or abuse. So, physical abuse is not the only form of abuse. You can be abused physically, yes. Whether that's physically hitting you or physically basically treating you like a slave or physically putting your life at risk. Physically, sometimes you can have somebody who basically they're locked in the house, their spouse takes the keys, so they can't leave the house or refuses, to get them, medical insurance when they need it, when they're pregnant, when they've been physical to them and they need to go to the doctor. They refuse to allow them to go get medical aid or medical assistance. So those are all different examples of physical abuse. But apart from physical abuse, there's also psychological and emotional abuse, which a lot of times can be more damaging than the instant hitting for a lot of people. These are all things that will qualify you. Also, sexual abuse, abuse of the legal system, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse. So these are all things that if you are experiencing that in totality, and it arises to the level of extreme cruelty, you can be eligible to get a 10-year green card with VAWA. So I know that my post yesterday was very popular where I talked about marriage. If you're filing VAWA as a spouse or an ex-spouse, you cannot remarry someone else until they make a decision on your case. If you remarry somebody else, basically, they will revoke your approval, or it will be basically abandoned. So you have to wait until they've approved your case before you can marry. So I'm gonna have Ashani join in today, one of my clients. Let me see if I know how to work this. Okay, let's try this again. Hey, Ashani. So I'm gonna have Ashani.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, good, good. I'm sure you guys saw Ashani yesterday. So what do you want to tell the people today?
I just want to shout out Aisha Chidaloo and the Chidaloo Law Firm. They've been so awesome in my power application.
Let
It was
them
a
know.
pleasure working with you guys. And
Uh,
everything, I mean, everything that she's explaining right now, I've been through it. I've tried to get remarried. I've tried all of that. And she just
Talk him off the ledge.
she kept me calm and was like, "I got you," and it
Yeah.
was such a pleasure. VAWA, I've only been doing the VAWA case for 3 years, and I got my approval and my green card within those 3 years. As a matter of fact, I got my first work permit in like 3 months after filing for VAWA. So it's been
Awesome.
awesome working with Aisha Chidaloo and the
Thank you,
Chidaloo Law
Ashani.
Firm. I just want to shout her out. This is a person you can trust with any immigration matters.
Thank you so much, Ashani. You guys are hearing it. Trust me, this is absolutely not staged or anything. One thing about me is I love for people that I've worked with to post the results and talk about it, because I believe that, if people are saying you're doing something, you have to show that, so people know, because there's just so much online. I mean, I've had people come to me saying that they went to somebody who they thought was a lawyer and wasn't a lawyer, and found out that that person was indicted for fraud or something like that. So, we definitely.
As a matter of fact, when I first met Aisha Chidaloo, I was so resistant in pain because I mean there's so much frauds, but just it was just a trust factor, and I'm here to say, like, she works endlessly for you. She makes sure that everything is taken care of. I mean, I've had RFEs and all those stuff, and she just keep me grounded and was like, just
Yeah. And tell them about when there was even a time where he wanted to travel. I was like, you can travel. You were a resistant one.
When I had advanced parole, and I was gonna take a cruise, and I was so afraid to leave the country, and she just told me, "Don't worry about it.
Let's go.
When you get back, we can be there in a minute if there's a problem." I was traveling from Tampa, and it was close to her Florida office, so she said just to call her if there was any problems.
Yeah, so there you have it. Thank you, Ashani, for tuning in. So call us for your VAWA. We'll be happy to help you. All right. So guys, I don't know how to end this stuff. So I think you have to exit. Do you know how to do it, Ashani? I think you have to just exit.
I don't know how to.
Okay, let me see if I can do it. You see, I don't even know. Let's try just this. Nope. This is my first time doing one of these, so no idea how to do it. You probably have to X out, and then you will disappear, and then enter back into the live. If you know how to do it, guys, let us know in the comments how to exit one person. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, so yeah, he's left. Yeah, so thanks, Ashani, for giving your own testimonial. You guys heard it firsthand. I truly believe in what it is that I do. I believe in my clients, and my mission is to make sure that if somebody comes to me and entrust me with something so important in their life, my mission is to get you the results. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm not a lawyer to lose. Like, my goal is to win cases for people. Yeah, I don't take all cases, but I'm not going to take a case if there's absolutely no chance, if you don't meet a requirement. But if I take your case, I can't guarantee anybody a win because I don't make the decisions. But my goal is to make sure that your application is as strong as possible. And I know sometimes it's like, oh, why are you asking for this? Why are you asking for that? It's because, we do this all the time. We know the things that are going to get you to where you need to get to. But okay, so let me just get back into it. So yeah, and so with the VAWA, if you fall into any of those extreme cruelty or abuse category, you can certainly qualify to apply, for VAWA and get your 10-year green card through VAWA. One thing that I will mention, because, it's been coming up a lot with the post yesterday with VAWA, is that if you're divorced, let me repeat that again, and you file for VAWA, I know I said it again, let me repeat that again. You cannot remarry until they make a decision on your case, okay? The other thing is you have to submit your VAWA application if you're doing it through marriage within 2 years of divorce. So let's say you're divorced and you just found out about VAWA a year after divorce. You have to submit before the 2-year anniversary of your divorce. That's in marriage. And then as far as children go, you need to apply before you turn 21, right? If you're over the age of 21, technically you can still apply. You just have to show that, the abuse was part of the reasons why you were late to apply. And you have between the age of 21 to you turn 25 to enter into the late application. The only downside to the late application is that you're not going to be able to do an adjustment of status with the late application because, you've aged out, so you're going to have to wait in time, but you can at least wait your time here while you're doing your adjustment of status. And once you get your VAWA, no, you can wait here while you're doing your VAWA, and then when you get your VAWA EAD, and then adjust once, the window opens for you in the visa bulletin. One other key and great thing about VAWA is that, when you have a marriage-based case, for instance, if you entered into the country without inspection, meaning you crossed the border, you came on a C1 crewman D1 visa, you cannot adjust your status. However, if you are a VAWA applicant, you can do that. So whether you entered across the border without inspection, whether you came on a crewman visa, D visa, you can adjust your status with VAWA without having to leave the United States. So that's another benefits of VAWA. The other thing is, people get confused with self-petitioner. Like, do I have to have a sponsor? Does someone have to sponsor me? With VAWA applications, because you're a self-petitioner, you're exempt from a financial affidavit of support, which I know is for a lot of people, especially people in that situation, tough because, if you're being abused, you don't have any sponsor, you don't have anyone to file like an I-864 for you. With VAWA, you don't need it, okay? Another thing with VAWA is that you are exempt from the public charge rule. Right now, as of December 23rd, they changed the I-485 to start including like your debt and liability and how much assets you have, your education, basically things that they had when it was President Trump's era. So as a VAWA applicant, you're also exempt from that, okay? Let me see, what else do I want to talk about with VAWA before I answer questions, because I see a lot of questions. So basically, from a success standpoint, really the key with being successful with your VAWA is telling your story. I know for a lot of us who come from countries where you learn how to compartmentalize pain, you don't really show pain because like, well, what am I going to do? Let me talk like my Nigerian stuff, like, what am I going to do? It's like, it's happened. But when you're dealing with immigration, you can't sound like that. You have to tell them what is hurting. It's not a time to be machismo, to be macho, to be strong. You have to show the vulnerability that you're a human being and what happened to you is painful. And you tell the story through your personal declaration. I can't tell you countless of times where I've met with potential clients and consults, and it's like, I'm really pulling and pulling. I tell them, you're very lucky that you have me pulling, because if you go to somebody else, or you just say, tell immigration, oh, my wife is abusive. She just abuses me. She just abuses me. Like, that's not going to be enough. You have to get into the details of what is happening. If I ask you a question, oh, does your husband make you feel self-conscious of yourself? It's not enough to tell me yes. You can use an example. You should use an example. Oh, you know what? My husband always tells me that I'm fat, that look at all those skinny models, go get a BBL surgery, go do your waist or whatever. So I'm using this as an example. Like, there was one time we were going out and I wore this outfit, and he was like, my stomach looked so big, it made me feel bad about myself. So that is an example. So you have to be very detailed when you're telling your story, so that when the person who's reading it reads it, they can understand. And, it's like, think about it this way. It's like watching a movie, right? We watch movies all the time where you watch a movie and you find yourself bawling and crying. You don't know these people. You don't know whether there's a real movie. You understand what I'm saying? Like, but you connect with the story. And that is the same way with a VAWA application. When an officer is looking at your application, they have to be able to connect and feel your pain as another human being. And so if you have a declaration and it's not connecting, it's going to be hard to be successful. The other thing is, you have to have a good faith marriage if it's based on marriage, meaning your marriage has to be a legitimate marriage, and you have to have proof of the legitimacy of your marriage. You have to show that you've lived with your spouse. You could have lived with your spouse before you got married, or it could have been after you got married. It doesn't have to be only after marriage. It could have been before marriage. This is one of the great changes that they made last year. There is no timeline, to how long you should have lived together, but we need some sort of evidence of that cohabitation, of living together. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've had a client who lived with their spouse for 2 months, but we were able to have evidence to show that in those 2 months they were together cohabitating. What else? And then you have to show you have good moral character. Good moral character means that you don't have any crimes of moral turpitude in the last 3 years. You don't want to get arrested while your VAWA case is going on, for something that that they find you guilty of, and all of that stuff. So that's another benefits to VAWA. I know that I will never be able to cover everything of VAWA today, so I'm just going to try and answer some questions. Somebody says, how long, I'm assuming, Kiera, you're trying to ask, how long does VAWA take to be approved? Honestly, VAWA, can be different for everyone, depending on if you have an RFE, or if you have or if you don't have an RFE. So the normal timeline for VAWA as a standalone itself, I would say on average, somewhere between 18 to 26 months. The when you go on VAWA processing time, it'll tell you 24 months to 36 to 30 months. On average, I would say that 70%, 75% of people will get the actual VAWA approval within 18 months to 24 months. But before I continue, I just want to point out that if you do have an adjustment of status application with your VAWA, you will be able to get your work permit somewhere between 4 to 7 months. So at least you have your 2-year work permit while your case is pending. Now, after your VAWA is approved, and I'm talking about a VAWA case that has no RFE or anything else like that. After your VAWA is approved, on average, it takes 5 to 6 months for you to get your green card, because what happens is they approve your VAWA and then they send it to your field office. So all VAWA cases are processed and decisions are made in Vermont Service Center, all of them. So after that's done, they have to distribute them to the various field offices of where people live. Once it gets there, then USCIS is going to make one of two decisions. Are we going to bypass this person for an interview, or are we going to schedule an interview? I want to point out that whether or not you're bypassed or whether or not you're scheduled for an interview, it's not something to be scared of. Some officers just want to do an interview. Some offices are okay with bypassing it, but because you're scheduled for an interview doesn't mean anything is going to happen if you're eligible for the case. So don't let that scare you. My client who just came on the live had an interview. You guys saw, post of him, at an interview, and he can tell you how easy and breezy it was. Okay. So if they give you an interview or they bypass you for an interview, at that point, once you're approved based on your I-485, that's where you get your 10-year green card, and then you'll be eligible for citizenship 3 years later, whether or not you're divorced from your spouse or not. Okay, so that is it for a timeline, which is why you can see for most people from start to finish, you're looking at anywhere from like 2.5 years or 2 years, 6 months, 2 years, 7 months. And then if you have an RFE, depending on how long it takes you to get that information to complete the RFE, RFEs, you're usually given 87 days. Some people use the 87 days. Some people use the additional extension from the COVID, relief, which should be coming to an end obviously this year. So that can also add time. While that's going on, just make sure that if you qualify for an adjustment of status, you put it in so you can have your work permit and your travel permit, and you can just live your life normally while you're waiting for it to, happen. Okay, let me answer other questions. Somebody says, happy child OD says, what happens if you don't receive an RFE since 2019 on your VAWA case? You need to contact an attorney right away. We've actually had a client who just got approved recently who did not get, the person came to us because their case was super delayed. And it turned out that they had an RFE that they never responded to, and USCIS was able to send us the RFE because they never received it. We responded to the RFE, and that person got approved. So it is possible for you to get approved if there's no documentation, if they're able to show basically you didn't receive it, and this is the first time you're receiving it. Okay. Somebody asked, can someone who has a misdemeanor apply for VAWA? Technically, yes. It depends on when the misdemeanor was and whether it's considered a crime of moral turpitude. But I would need a little bit more to be able to let you know. So you can definitely do a consult to find out. Okay. So this person, Alicia Thompson, says, hi, Isha, it's been a year since I filed a VAWA case now, and I haven't received any work authorization. Before I analyze, I would know what category of your work authorization, what did you apply for? Did you put the right category in there? Did you add an adjustment of status application? There's just so many variables. And if everything is checked off and you didn't receive one, then it's time to definitely do a VAWA inquiry to find out where's your work permit, okay? John says, if your prima facie is approved, what follows? A prima facie determination is the first sign of anything that you get from your VAWA application. A prima facie is basically saying that you have established that you meet the bare minimum requirements to be considered as a VAWA applicant, right? However, we're still going to use a fine-tooth comb to review the rest of your application to determine if, to approve you or not. A prima facie is a good sign, but I want to be clear to you guys, a prima facie is not a guarantee of approval. It's just a good sign that you've met the bare minimum, and now we're going to look at everything else. So typically what happens after the prima facie is you wait for a decision, or you get an RFE, or sometimes you get an NOID, which is a notice of intent to deny. So that's basically the life cycle. So you might get a prima facie within 3 to 6 months of when you submit your VAWA application, but most likely you're still not getting a decision until like 18 to 24 months. Sometimes we tend to see some VAWA cases getting approved quicker. And the cases that typically get approved quicker are cases where they already had a pending 485 because they were doing it with their spouse and something happened, and then they're switching over to a VAWA case. But those are the ones we generally see it a little bit quicker. Okay, so let's see. Fantastic Jill said, your dates are so far out. What if you want an early consultation? Unfortunately, I can't multiply myself. I truly appreciate you wanting to schedule a consult, but I promise you it's worth the wait. If you can find an appointment with me, I have two very capable and able attorneys here who we all work together collaboratively and as a team. And every win here is a win for all of us. So you can meet with Attorney Chidera or Attorney Jordan if they have earlier dates. At the end of the day, every case that comes to this office goes through me. So whether or not I have another attorney assigned, reviewing, working on your stuff, preparing something for you, I will surely make my edits, make my commentary, make my changes, look at it from a strategic standpoint, and we will discuss it before it goes out, because it is important to me, as I mentioned earlier, that everybody that comes to this firm gets their case as close to perfect as possible for approval. You know. Okay, let me see what else. I have like 4 minutes left. Suleiman says, lately, it looks like green card interviews are being waived. In case you get scheduled for an interview, should one be worried? It's like what I just said. You should not be worried if you get an interview or not. We go to interviews all the time and the clients get approved all the time. Again, sometimes some people might have all that they need for them to make a decision. Sometimes they want to meet with you and ask more questions. It doesn't mean that your case will be denied. It just means that that particular officer wants to meet with you. And you have to understand that everyone is different. So like you can have an officer that's like, oh, they have this approved. And you have another officer like, I want to talk to them. I want to see them. I want to see this. So everyone is different, but you getting an interview does not mean anything bad is going to happen. You just have to make sure that you are preparing for your interview. If you're going to an interview for a marriage case, you're going for an interview for a VAWA case, do not underestimate preparing. Just the same way that if you're a parent, you tell your child, study for the test, study for an exam. A green card application interview is a very important exam. Why? Because for a lot of people, it means that you have status in this country to do what you need to do, and don't worry that somebody's going to pick you up, send you to ICE, or have you deported. Okay. Okay. Let me see what else. Sexy Limited says, good morning. How soon can I get my divorce done? My 2-year green card expires soon. Well, I don't know. Divorce is a personal decision. You can divorce whenever you want to divorce. If you're asking whether or not you can file for removal of conditions because you have a pending divorce, then you need to get divorced. You need to get divorced and then file for removal of conditions. You can also file for removal of conditions on the basis of divorce. If you have a pending divorce, the only thing that you got to keep in mind is that USCIS will send you an RFE, a request for additional evidence, and give you 87 days to basically present your divorce. So if you know or think that your divorce is going to be really long and traumatic, you might as well wait till your divorce is completed. One of the things you can do is you can get a waiver for, and specifically explain the lateness of you submitting your removal of condition application because your divorce is pending. You wanted to finalize that. Do keep in mind, though, that if you do not submit your removal of condition application within the timeline, you could very well, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's a chance that you can be put in removal proceedings. So, you definitely want to do that. Okay. Someone says, I just saw that question. How long is VAWA permits and work? How long is VAWA work permit taken after receiving receipt notice? A VAWA work permit is different from an adjustment of status work permit. You don't get a VAWA work permit until your VAWA case is approved. If you're talking about how long does it take to get a work permit based on an adjustment of status application that you filed with your VAWA case, that takes anywhere from like 4 to 9 months. Right now, knock on wood, we've been seeing a lot within like 4 months to 6 months, even 3 months to 6 months. So if you're lucky, you'll be one of the people that fall into that category. Okay. Camus says, I'm undocumented and I've been in an abusive marriage and I'm voluntary departure since 2008. Can I file for VAWA? Without a consultation, I will not be able to answer the question. We'll need a consultation. Okay. Now Megdi says, can you be approved for VAWA, if you have a pending divorce, absolutely yes, you can be approved. So VAWA is different from when you're filing for a conditional removal, and you're asking for a waiver based on VAWA. So if you have a pending divorce, when you submit your VAWA application, you absolutely can be approved. You absolutely can also be approved if you're already divorced, as long as you submit your application within 2 years of the divorce. And you can also still be in your marriage and get approved, because some people ask that as well. Say, do you have to be divorced? Can you live in the same house? You can live in the same house. You can live in separate houses. The most important things are the initial elements I talked about, proving that you have a good faith, true marriage, that you cohabitated together, you're a person of good moral character. Okay, and that you've experienced extreme cruelty from your spouse. Guys, I gotta jump off. I enjoyed chatting, and I will see you guys later. Bye.